God, I love that intro. Welcome into the Finstock Sport Network's newest show, Touchdown in Paradise, your number one source of all things college football from here in the South Bay, California, and out in West Florida, who thankfully avoided the hurricane. I'm Justin.
I'm Joe.
I'm Russ.
And welcome in. Russ, give us a quick weather report. How you guys doing out there in Florida?
Oh, we're good. It just shifted, so it was coming this way, and then they said it was probably going to hit Tuesday night, Wednesday, and then it shifted to like North Tampa, and they got hit a little bit more than us. They were predicting like 9 to 12 inches of rainwater and surge, but it kind of shifted to North Florida, Gainesville, Tallahassee, then up to Georgia and the Carolinas. So just like my first taste of it, just shifts. It's just like really quick moving. One minute it's coming at you, 5 minutes later it's on a different trajectory.
Yeah, man. Well, we're really happy you guys are all okay out there. Joe and I experienced a hurricane out here in California, but not just a hurricane. We also experienced an earthquake simultaneously. Remember that, Joe?
That was I would say, a weather phenomenon. I would say you have a hurricane. I'm putting quotes because it's no Florida Gulf hurricane, but then simultaneously with the earthquake, it was an interesting Monday to say the least.
Well, like I was saying, hurricanes, I think I can deal with. Tornadoes scare the living crap out of me. So I'm like, they had tornado just because there's not a lot of like, the water goes, the sand takes it out. You can walk out for a lot. There's not a lot of shoreline. So there's a lot of like water spouts that get the tornadoes going. So tornadoes they scare me.
Hey, I feel your sympathy there. With the tornadoes, they are pretty scary. They just destroy everything in their path, whereas hurricanes just get everything wet in their path. Speaking of hurricanes, a couple weeks ago when the hurricane hit here in California, I was flying back in from Phoenix with Pete and a couple other guys. And speaking of Phoenix, ASU has a bowl ban for the 2023 season. This self-imposed ban starts stemming from the recruiting violations that happened back during the Herm Edwards era. Let's start with you, Joe, on this. Given all that's going on with ASU and Herm Edwards now out there now, how does this affect not only ASU, but Herm Edwards' legacy as a coach?
Well, I don't think it necessarily impacts his legacy. I mean, he already had an outstanding reputation and, just background going into ASU. So, I mean, if this is anything, just a little blurb on his, on his resume. I mean, if he was trying to go anywhere else, I'm sure a lot of people would pick up that phone call. Regarding the actual ban, it's nice to actually see a punishment. I know last week we talked about Harbaugh and their self-imposed and, three games, where, this at least seems like a little bit of a punishment. You're not going to a bowl game. Your seniors, unfortunately, will not have that experience. And, so at least it feels a little bit more harsher than Michigan's that we talked about last week.
Definitely. Russ, I know you're an Arizona guy, but Arizona State getting this ban, how do you feel as a fan?
It's pointless to me. Why are we dealing with bans? This was 3 years ago. I'm over it. Like, move on. Like, why are we dealing with bans and bowl bans from stuff that happened 3 years ago? The world is a way different place. Like, move on, move forward.
I didn't read too much into the ban itself, but I guess they're trying to save face and not face the NCAA by saying, hey, we're going to punish ourselves so you don't have to do it for us. So if that's the case, I get why they're doing this. While we're on the topic of punishments, I know that we followed this pretty diligently, but the entire state of Iowa is under fire pretty much, with Iowa State and Iowa players getting banned for the season left and right for alleged sports gambling. And what are your guys' thoughts on this? Russ, let's start with you.
I mean, we already pay these athletes, so what the hell? Why are we not letting them gamble? And I mean, I understand these guys aren't really student athletes anymore. They're athletes who happen to sometimes go to class, So why are we imposing gambling stuff on them? They can't make a little money on the extra or lose it, which is probably most likely going to happen. I mean, the real issue is, are they betting on their own games, which I think was the case in the Iowa State, which we can't have. But if they just want to bet, I mean, they're already making millions of dollars from an NIL. What's the problem with them, having a little fun?
We've seen this now in college football and the NFL, players getting banned for gambling on NFL games or even just at an NFL facility. Jamison Williams got suspended recently from the Detroit Lions. Joe, with this issue going on here, how big of a problem is it betting on your own games versus betting on another sport?
Well, I think betting on your own game is the issue. It impacts the integrity of the sport. I mean, if you're basically taking bets, basically saying, I'm going to score this amount of touchdowns or not going to score this amount of touchdowns, and it makes it question, is this legit? Is this a legitimate, issue? I agree with Russ, they're making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Let them bet. And I know, I'm going to use this comparison, and Russ, being a baseball guy, you should know, I mean, the MLB is still not allowing Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame for sports betting. And it's like, it seems a bit ridiculous. But they're going to do what they think is best, whether we agree with it or not. That's a different story. I think just really the issue is, if they're betting on their own games, it kind of tarnishes the integrity of the sport and of that game. So should that game be disqualified? Should it not count? I think that's a much bigger conversation.
And I'm curious how you think that would impact a path to the college football playoff if they start forfeiting games like that.
Yeah, I think that's an issue that would definitely have to be discussed by the NCAA and, all the athletic directors out there. But, I think it should impact it. If you're caught, betting on your own games, it really raises that question. And, with that, if you make it to the College Football College Football Playoff, and you're caught doing that, it's, you should potentially be cut from that opportunity. It's still a game that we love, and that's why we do this. And if you're jeopardizing it because you want to make a little extra money, like it's just greed at that point, in my opinion.
Last bit on this, Russ, do you support the players getting banned one by one, or do you feel like the whole team should be punished and have to forfeit if one player does something?
I mean, I'm a sports guy. I'm a coach, taught PE for a little bit, so I'm definitely on board with punishing everybody. But these guys are men, so I can't literally punish everybody for the action of one. These guys are men. They know what they're doing. So, and like we even saw with the Swamp documentary, like you can't punish Tim Tebow for the action of 10 players. Could have been even more. So, these guys are, paid professionals now. So they should just treat it like the NFL.
I think they were very fortunate to have Tim Tebow as the face of the Florida Gators during that era, who was the ultimate just class act saint who you could look to be the captain of the locker room like that, and seemed to mask all the other issues that were going on in the locker room and out of the locker room, off the field, on the field, everything. But enough of that. As Anakin Skywalker once said, this is where the fun begins. It's college football season. We had week 0 last week. A couple of teams look pretty good. Other ones, there's still some issues. But we're going to start with a team that was very well-rounded and looking great. Joe's Fighting Irish Notre Dame kicked off the season in Dublin, Ireland, with a 42-3 rout over Navy. I'm going to let him gloat a little bit after Russ speaks. So, Russ, what did you see in this game?
I saw a well-rounded game, but Navy being overmatched, Sam Hartman was doing everything right, making his passes. Estime the running game was looking good. Estime was looking good. I mean, I don't know how much you can take from that game. It's just they're so much more talented. The guys they get are 5-star athletes. How much can you take from that? So it's just great. It was great. College football is back. Unbelievable environment. Amazing. But it's how much can you take from that game? Notre Dame's a blue blood football program.
All right, Joe, the floor is yours.
Where to begin? Well, I think, again, the first caveat is, again, yes, it's first game of the season, and it is Navy. But there's a couple things about Navy that I think is being kind of brushed over. Last year, and again, I'm not a big stat guy, but if I'm not mistaken, they had the top 10 best rushing defense, and I think they returned everyone but one guy. And Notre Dame, again, yes, recruits and everything, ran all over them. They had 5 running backs touch the ball in some way and couldn't stop them. But I will say it doesn't really matter. It's the Sam Hartman show. He is, after one game, if the Heisman Trophy was given after one game, he would have been given that Heisman Trophy. His stat line, 4 touchdowns. I think it was 240, 250 yards passing. It's not flashy, but it's the intangibles. It's, the fact that, under pressure, a guy going at his knees, lower leg, and he stays in the pocket and hits, who is it? I think it was Greathouse for that first touchdown. It's the fact that he can stay in the pocket, move a little bit, finds Greathouse for the second touchdown. It's just Notre Dame has not had a quarterback, I would say, since,
Brady Quinn,
Jimmy Clausen, and Jimmy Clausen's teams were great offense, terrible defense. The offense looks good. Defense, you can't really judge off of Navy. They do one thing. They wing tee, run the ball. They did try to throw a couple times, and Notre Dame got lucky. But it's a great start. Last year, Notre Dame was up big at half and let Navy came back, and they almost lost. Not this year, and I think that's because of Sam Hartman.
I'm excited to see, Notre Dame this week when they duel out that $1 million paycheck to Tennessee State.
Hey, you know who their head coach is? Another
Eddie George.
Yeah,
Eddie
another
George.
Ohio State alum. So I think maybe Marcus is, trying to help out a former teammate there a little bit. But no, I think, again, that's another great game to build some depth, get some young kids in, get ready for the next 2 after that at North Carolina State, and then the big one that, of course, I'm looking forward to, Ohio State at South Bend.
I'm looking forward to that too.
Being in Nashville, I did know some Tennessee State alums, former Tennessee State football players. They did have some mixed feelings on Eddie George as the head coach.
It's a tough program. It's a tough place to be. He's had losing records the past 2 years there, I believe.
They don't have a stadium on campus. They play at Nissan Stadium. And
I didn't even know that. So yeah.
That's even because they can't fill capacity of that. They can't even get one side.
No, and it's FCS, so it's a little different. But again, it's for the viewpoint of Notre Dame, it's just another good opportunity to focus on yourself, work on the issues that you have. And it'll be nice to see a proper offense to really gauge how Notre Dame's defense looks. I know the one thing I did notice, our safeties will be potentially our Achilles heel. But we'll see.
We will see. And on the other side of the country, other side of the world, I should say, from where that game was happening, I actually got last-minute tickets to this game, and I'm really glad I did. USC faced San Jose State at the Coliseum. They trounced them 56-28, but that defense, it was a big Achilles heel last year for USC, and they started to let up a little bit. So I think that's a little bit of a concern here. But nonetheless, Caleb Williams did Caleb Williams things, 278 yards, 4 touchdowns, including a fumble, then bomb Hail Mary for a touchdown. And witnessing that in person, that was amazing. The only highlight of the game that really got me out of my seat. So I think Caleb Williams is a very exciting player. This was just not his typical, super flashy, every play you got to see. It was one play that got everybody out of their seats, so they took care of business in the end. Joe, little comments on this game here.
The first thing was I can see why the Pac-12 is going to under when literally that game is on the Pac-12 network. And if you don't have that on Spectrum or whatever your cable cert provider is, you're not watching it. So I can see why the Pac-12 is struggling there. But the little bits and pieces I watched of that game, it was very subdued. I was expecting Caleb Williams flash everywhere. And like you said, Justin, it was basically that one play, which was a off-script, ugly play that against potentially a better team, he's getting sacked. So it great win. The score says it was a lot farther apart, but I think that defense, it's in my opinion still a question mark.
Like I said last week, I don't trust Alex Grinch. I don't trust Lincoln Riley in big games. But Russ, do you think otherwise?
Like Joe said, I think they're going to put up big points. I like the offense, but I think their defense is the Achilles heel, and I think that defense is going to be the make or break for them. Are they going to get them in contention for the college football playoff or not? It's not going to be. I think Caleb Williams is going to do what he does every game. The guy's a highlight reel for college football. He's a Heisman for a reason, but that defense is going to be – the defense is the reason they didn't get a shot last year. So, is it they're not that good, or is it they're just playing down to their competition? They know it's San Jose State.
The one thing I will say is, and I agree with you, Russ, is it's going to be that offense that gets them to the college football playoff. What doesn't get them there is the defense. Is there a team that can stop that offense 2 times and just outscore USC? I could see that. The Pac-12, we talked about this last week. The Pac-12 is loaded this year, and it's going out the window next year. So it's a great year to watch Pac-12 football, but then on the other hand, it's only 1 year.
Get it while you can, Get it while you can.
Last bit on this game, overreaction or not, Zachariah Branch, 4 receptions, 86 yards, 1 touchdown, and an electrifying 96-yard kick return touchdown. He will be a Heisman contender in 2 to 3 years. Overreaction or not, Joe?
Not at all. Next year, I could see him in there. I'm going to quote my boy Brady Quinn. He looks like he's playing at a different speed. He sees the field. He can make cuts, make decisions. He's on another level already as a true freshman. No, he will be at least in New York for the Heisman, if not winning it. I could see maybe next year.
Love it. Russ, your thoughts?
I don't even know. I can't think that far, Justin.
Okay, we'll spare you this time, Russ. So we're going to move on to just thinking ahead to a couple days to this week with our parlay segments. Who's ready?
Let's go.
Okay, so we start with the second game of a home-and-home series kicked off last year between the Florida Gators and the Utah Utes. This time, Florida's going to Salt Lake City. An SEC team going west?
Unheard of.
Believe it.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, right.
Well, Cam Rising and crew are ranked number 14 this year. Utah is favored by 6.5. The over-under is 44.5, and the money line is Utah minus 258, Florida plus 210. Russ, you're in the state of Florida, so we'll start with you.
Oh, well, I'm going Utah to cover. I'm going the over. It's only 44.5. Cam Rising, just too much. Difficult to play in Salt Lake, a little higher altitude. Florida's got a new quarterback they got to break in, so not much you got to say.
I think this is a great time to announce that Russ is our new scorekeeper in our parlay competition. So congratulations to you, Russ.
Yeah,
Would you
thanks.
like to explain the scoring rules?
Okay, yeah, so we're going half a point each pick. Obviously, if you pick money line cover spread, the cover, if they cover, it's going to wipe out the money line. If you call money line cover, obviously we're not playing with our own money right now. We're just calling games. You'll still get the W. The only way you can get all 3 points, you'll give you 3. You call money line cover spread, and the cover is an underdog. So if I call a cover for Colorado, TCU, I'm going to get 3 points. I call all 3. We're going our upset picks of the week. We're going 2 for cover, 5 for upset. All right. And our standings for this week first is we got me and Justin with 4. We got Pete's got 3.5, and Joe's got 3.
Let's go. Tie for first. Thank you, Russ. Okay.
Oh yeah. Also, a little South Bay news. Want to throw a shout out to the boys, Low League boys from El Segundo Low League, winning the College World Series. First team from the South Bay. I think first team in a long time from LA County. So I want to throw a little shout out. We're all super proud of you.
Let's go, Gundola.
Congratulations to those boys. You make us all proud here in the South Bay, the greatest place to live in the U.S. Sorry, Russ.
Hey, I don't disagree.
You've been around, so have I. Okay, Joe, your picks for Florida, Utah.
So I'm going to be a little more aggressive this week. I have Florida with the points. I think, again, Cam Rising is probably not playing this game. Tore his ACL in the Rose Bowl. He is, I would say, doubtful at best. So both quarterbacks you got to kind of work in. I think, again, SEC football, even if it is Florida, I got to go with it. So I'm going Florida 6.5, and I'm taking Florida money line with the upset in Salt Lake.
All right.
Wow, Joe going for it this week.
I told you I'm going aggressive this week.
You've got to catch up, so I respect it.
Yep.
So looking at me, I'll be a little risky here too. Joe makes a great point that Cam Rising might be out. Cam setting, anybody? So I will take Florida to cover the points as well. I'm also going to go the under here because I don't trust Billy Napier. I don't trust Florida's offense. And they have to get on a plane and go from Gainesville to Salt Lake. That's a recipe for disaster for any team like that. And I will take the Utah money line. I still think they're going to win, but it's going to be very, very close. Russ, you got all that?
I got it.
Okay, moving along here. Deion Sanders making his debut in Fort Worth, Texas, on the road at number 17 TCU. The team that made the national championship last year, that lost a lot of talent as well. Sonny Dykes' first year. Now he's got to reload. TCU is a 20.5-point favorite, 64 over-under. Money line is TCU minus 1,200 and Colorado plus 750. Joe, we're going to start with you this time.
Quick question. Spread was 20.5 or 28?
20.5.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm taking the over. I think it's just going to be a shootout for sure. And I just didn't really know. So I went with, I'm going to go on Neon Deion, keep it close. I'm gonna take Colorado with the 20.5 on the points.
All right, fair. Russ.
All right, so I'm going TCU money line, and I'm going the under.
Okay, simple as that. Love it. And for me, it's just really tough because you can't look at Colorado last year and predict how they're going to do this year. Your best bet is to look at Jackson State. And even then, you can't even see their games on TV as Jackson State. So we didn't get to see a lot of Deion last year. But I am really excited to see his son play quarterback for the Buffaloes. They are going on the road. They are a very new team. I know Dion was my pick for Coach of the Year, but I think he's going to get a harsh, rude awakening here while this team is learning to gel together. So for that reason, I'll take TCU to cover the spread and stop there. Okay, now that we talked about this one, we have Boise State at number 10, Washington. Washington is a 14.5-point favorite on the spread. The over-under is 58.5. Washington's at minus 675 money line. BSU plus 490. I'm going to go bold here. This is my upset pick of the week. Just watch. Boise State's very good at sneaking up on a team like this. I know Washington, an amazing year last year. Michael Penix, Heisman favorite potential, right next to Caleb Williams. But it's still Boise State, and it's still something to be feared. So I will go Boise State with that 490 money line. And I will also go the over here. Both teams are going to score a lot of points. Joe, let's start with you.
That honestly, that may be a bigger one than Florida upsetting Utah. So, good luck on that. I have, again, Michael Penix, Heisman Trophy candidate. I have Washington easily with the spread, 14.5, and I have Washington money line. It's in Seattle. This is where another good quarterback, another one from the Pac-12, makes their first statement to the world.
Okay. Russ?
That's bold, Justin, because if I recall, you put Washington in your college football Final Four.
I know. I'm starting to have some second thoughts here.
So, I'm definitely going. I'm just going Washington with the money line, obviously, and Washington to cover. Michael Penix in Seattle. It's just it's too much. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to start as Heisman candidate.
Speaking of good games, I'm really excited for this next one here. West Virginia at number 7 Penn State. PSU minus 20.5 spread, as well as TCU. Over under here is 50.5. And then money line here we have Penn State minus 14.50, West Virginia 8.50. Now, Russ, Neil Brown last year was probably on the hottest seat in the country. Does he save his job this week?
I got the cover for Penn State. And what was the over under again?
Over under here is 50.5.
That's a lot of points. So I'm just going to go Penn State covering.
All right, Joe.
Yeah, this one was a tough one. This is a rivalry game, week one. We don't really think of it as a rivalry game, but if you look back, in the 90s, West Virginia Penn State was a good one. I have to go Penn State. I'm just going to go money line on Penn State. I feel like we're talking about hot seat. James Franklin needs to do something. He's had some great recruiting classes at Penn State. He's had some big name guys come through Penn State. I feel like he needs to make a statement this year. The Big Ten is, I would say besides Michigan and Ohio State, Penn State's there. I'll take Penn State money line, and I will go. I'll just leave it at that. I was going to do the over, but I'm not feeling confident there. So I'll money line Penn State. Play safe there.
This one really could go either way. I like that. Stay conservative here and go Penn State to cover, and then Penn State with the money line. Got that, Russ?
Yep.
Okay.
Take them notes, Russ.
Moving right along, another potential upset. I already used my upset of the week, so I can't again here, but another game to really watch here. Number 21, North Carolina, going to Columbia to face South Carolina, their arch rival, quote unquote. So North Carolina is favored by 2.5. The over-under here is 64.5. Money line, UNC minus 130, South Carolina plus 110. I could go back and forth on this. If Shane Beamer and Spencer Rattler finish the year like they did last year, or start the year like they finished last year, as I should say, this gets really interesting. Now, we know Drake May is a freshman phenom. He's just all around amazing. But, Joe, is that going to be enough?
This is another one. I have the upset. I have South Carolina plus 2.5. I'm taking the over, and I'm taking South Carolina money line. I think, as you said, Justin, South Carolina starts the season the way they ended it, minus the Notre Dame bowl game, but again, they still put up I think it was 40-something points in that bowl game. So I have South Carolina at South Carolina too. So I think Drake May is a great QB, another potential Heisman candidate, trying to get his getting his reputation going, getting the ball rolling for that. But I think South Carolina at South Carolina is going to be too much.
I like it. Russ.
All right, so I'm just going to start it off. I'm going to go with the over, and then you can keep the 2.5 points. South Carolina is winning this outright. I'm all in on Spencer Rattler, getting that Heisman back up. I'm all in on Beamer ball. South Carolina is winning this game. Don't even worry about the points. You can take the points. South Carolina is winning this ball game.
I like it. All the boys are going bold here with South Carolina. I'm riding with the Cox too. Oh, God, that sounded so bad. South Carolina. Can we cut that out, please? I'm kidding.
You're going to get us demonetized.
This is a family show. South Carolina plus money line. Give me that all day, and I'll take the over as well. Points are going to be scored all over the field that night. Let's go Beamer ball, baby. Mm-hmm. Across the state, we have Clemson visiting Duke. Clemson starts the year at number 9. We have a new quarterback here who came in last year. We have, I'm all over the place here. Clemson is a 13-point favorite, 55.5 over under. Clemson is minus 500, whereas Duke is 380. Duke has a second-year head coach now, I believe. David Cutcliffe's been gone a couple years.
3 years.
3 years. I'm a little out of the loop there. I should know. We lost the bowl game to Duke last year. UCF did. Anyways, Russ, your thoughts here?
I'm just going Clemson money line. Like I said, I think Clemson wins the ACC. I think they get in. I think Garrett Riley is going to change that offense. So we'll go Clemson money line. That over is a little much. Over under is a little much for me. So I would just go Clemson money line.
And Joe.
I remember last week I have Duke as one of my sleepers. So I really thought potentially this would be my upset of the week. Mike Elko, third year at Duke, very experienced team versus Clemson that has all the talent. Cade Klubnik, the quarterback, has some experience last year. But it's at Duke. So I went back and forth, but I'm just taking Duke with the points. I'm taking the 13, and I'm going to take the under. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I think that game's up in the air. Who knows what's going to happen? But I think it'll be exciting.
Russ?
Oh, yeah, you already got me. I got Clemson.
Okay.
Yeah, it's you, Justin.
My turn. So Clemson with that minus 13. Oof, I am a little hesitant there. I know that it's still Dabo. I know that Duke is getting better by the year, but is it worth that big of a money line? Okay, Dabo, fine. I'll roll the dice with you, and I'll say Clemson covers the spread there, and I'll stop there.
There are worse coaches to roll with, so I like it, Justin.
And finally, here we have our game of the week. LSU and Florida State. Number 5 LSU facing number 8 Florida State in Orlando, where I went to college at the Citrus Bowl. I'll always call it the Citrus Bowl, but yeah, it's Camping World Stadium now, whatever. So the spread here is LSU minus 2.5. Over under here is 56.5. LSU minus 142 and FSU plus 120. Last year, we saw how close this game was. It was also Brian Kelly's first game as the LSU head coach. Now that he's had a year, We saw them in the SEC championship game. They gelled very quickly. They upset Alabama at home. Florida State beat them because they missed an extra point at the last second last year. Russ, do you see a similar outcome this year?
I'm predicting a great game. I can't recall what the over under was off the top of my head. What was that, Justin?
Over under here is
56 and a half.
Okay, so I'm going the under. I'm going LSU money line. I was high on FSU. I did a little research. I just want both of you guys to go back, go look at the last, they finished the season 6 straight wins, right? But just go back and look who they beat. So I got LSU money line.
That's a smart pick there. I'll roll with the LSU money line too. I think Brian Kelly's got something good there, and he's found the inner workings of Jaden Daniels. I always get confused. Jalen Daniels is at Kansas. Jaden Daniels is at LSU. I think he's unleashed Jaden Daniels' potential. He's turned him into a mobile threat and an arm threat. So I'll go LSU money line here, and I'll also take them to cover the spread. And I will say that this is going to be an under pick for me. Joe.
Well, I'm definitely going to say, if you're not going to watch any of the other games we talked about, this should be the game to watch. I think this game will be entertaining. I think it's going to be full of offense, defense. I think it's going to be probably one of the best games, if not the best game of the weekend. I don't know if it's Brian Kelly PTSD from being at Notre Dame for so long. Brian Kelly has a history of choking in these games. I can't bet for him. I'm taking Florida State with the points. I'm taking Florida State money line, and I'm taking the over. I think it's in Orlando, so it's somewhat of a home game for Florida State. That's just another year with Mike Norvell, who is one of my potential coach of the years. I think this would be a huge statement win for Florida State if they can beat LSU. But I wouldn't be surprised if LSU ends up winning. I just think it's Brian Kelly PTSD. I've seen him be in these games at Notre Dame, and he just chokes them away. And so I got to bet against him. I'm taking Florida State.
I understand that PTSD, but I've also seen Mike Norvell coach in the city of Orlando, and he's 0-3. Just a little nugget of knowledge there. Given he was at Memphis facing UCF, this is a whole different situation. But I wonder if that fortune will carry over. One of these is going to have to break. Mm-hmm. So we have our parlays. Russ, you got everything?
I do. Yeah, excited. Glad we figured this out. Kind of did a little work on the weekend. Think about just make it a little easier for us, a little system. So I'm excited, ready to go. I'm pumped. Love myself a little competition. A little smack talk with the boys is always fun. A little healthy competition. So let's go.
Let's go. Speaking of let's go, it's time for our prediction segment. We're going to start with the sleeper team. Last week, I picked Notre Dame outright. No change here. I think Notre Dame is the sleeper team, but they will wake up if they defeat Ohio State in a couple weeks. It won't be my sleeper anymore at that point, but yet to be seen. Speaking of Notre Dame, Joe, I see that big logo there. What's your pick?
Yeah, last week, Duke, Kansas State. It'll be interesting to watch that Duke game. Hopefully, what I've been kind of hearing and looking into is correct. So I'm going to keep Duke. Notre Dame, are they really, ever a sleeper team? Either you hate them or love them. But I will add Notre Dame to that sleeper team. If they beat Ohio State, they do have 2 other tough games, but I guess I'm jumping already on that bandwagon again. So, hey, Notre Dame, let's get after it.
And Russ.
Is Notre Dame a sleeper team? You got Sam Hartman, who is second in ACC history for most passing touchdowns. So,
I think he's first.
What is he first?
I think he's first.
Second or first. So it's like, yeah, they're coming from a down year, but this is a team that if they're they're right up there in New Year's Six Bowl, but definitely coming from last year, you'd say sleeper. So, my sleepers definitely, South Carolina, love me some Beamer ball, Spencer Rattler, and Oregon State. I don't know why anybody's not talking about Oregon State. All right, everybody's talking Stanford and Cal go to the ACC. Your Notre Dame ADs pushing Stanford and Cal to go to the ACC. That's going to be a terrible decision. So you're going to tell these college Stanford and Cal, let's go to Florida State, Miami, Clemson, Virginia. These guys are going to be. It's going to be the most traveled team in the nation. So, we're all talking Stanford, Cal. Oregon State was 9-4. Oregon State's going to be a team that's going to be reckoned with in the Pac-12 this year. So I just don't know why everybody's talking Stanford, Cal, who haven't been good in a cool minute, and nobody's talking Oregon State. They got a brand new stadium, new quarterback ready to go.
No, you're right. Oregon State finished the year great last year, defeated Oregon in an upset game. I like what they've got going there, but they do have some stiff competition this week. We saw San Jose State rack up 28 points on USC. I'm curious what they could do with Oregon State coming to visit them.
It'll be a good game. I mean, it'll be a ton of offense. So, I mean, if you want to see touchdowns, that's a game to watch.
You talk about a game with no defense, I think that will be the highest scoring game of the weekend, bold prediction. But now we'll move on to our Coach of the Year picks. Now, this is tough to do because we only saw a limited amount of games last week. So with that being said, nothing's really changed for me. I'll put Deion in there because really he's only got to win more than 2 games. And then he's improved significantly with Colorado. If he wins 6 games, 7 games, then he gets into that territory of, okay, maybe he is Coach of the Year. I'm going to roll with Deion. Joe.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Marcus Freeman and Mike Norvell. I think I'm seeing Notre Dame look legit. And then if Mike can beat LSU in Orlando, I think that just skyrockets the confidence in that team and as well as in Mike Norvell. So I'm sticking with my 2 picks.
Russ, are you sticking by your picks from last week as well?
I'm sticking with a pick. Good. I'm just going Dabo. I think Clemson's going to be good this year. I think that's a good pick, Joe. I told both Joe and Pete, Notre Dame guys, personally, I thought Brian Kelly did Notre Dame kind of a favor, leaving on his own volition, where Marcus Freeman, he has a good rapport. The players love him. So I could definitely see that happening. I think that was a kind of a win on Notre Dame's part that they didn't have to let Brian Kelly go. But I'm going Dabo. And, when we were seeing Clemson win national titles, we were seeing he had some great assistant coaches. And I think that's going to be a staple this year.
That's right. He had Tony Elliott. He had Brent Venables on staff, guys like that who are now head coaches at Virginia and Oklahoma, respectively.
Great head coaches have great coaching trees. I mean, name some of the best coaches, NFL or college. They have outstanding coaching trees. Saban, Belichick,
Andy Reid.
Yep.
Shanahan, great coaching tree.
I mean, I think that's the one difference between Dabo and Saban is he held on to his assistants a lot longer, whereas people were cherry picking Nick Saban's assistants every year, where Dabo could, had that sustained not dominance, but sustained success because he was able to keep those guys. And then you finally see, okay, now we're losing some guys to some programs. And now I think it's just coming back.
The continuity was there for 6-7 years. They didn't lose. They didn't lose an assistant coach till a couple of years ago. Then you start seeing the dip. You have that continuity. Same terminology, same defense, same offense. You're going to be in a great spot.
I mean, and that's what you're seeing. You see these guys from college go to the NFL, and I know it didn't really work out, but you look at Sam Darnold. I mean, I'm a Jets fan through and through, but you see Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold really, maybe it didn't work out for him, but he was getting a new offensive coordinator every year. So every year you're going to have to learn a new offense. These kids are at that time still trying to go to class. They're still student athletes, so they're expected to learn a brand new playbook and keep a GPA.
At some schools.
Yeah, at some schools, yeah. And schools like Notre Dame, that's hard academics.
That's the real question about it is, you got to keep that continuity if you want success.
That's right. And we, as a college football podcast, support academics just as much as we do athletics, because without academics, there'd be no collegiate sports or institutions or anything like that. So stay in school, kids. And now for our Heisman picks. I know that Joe and I picked players who played this week. Russ, I forgot who you picked. I picked Sam Hartman. Joe, you picked
Caleb Williams and Sam Hartman.
Mm-hmm. Caleb Williams and Sam Hartman. Russ?
I'm on the Michael Penix train still.
Mm-hmm. Penix Station, baby.
He's my pick until he proves me wrong. And I don't think he's going to prove me wrong a lot this year.
Best lefty since Tua?
Hey, hopefully
he's better.
That's his goal, I'm guessing. Indiana's probably kicking themselves. They lost this guy.
Mm-hmm. I know. Even in Indiana, though, I remember he had a lot of mistakes. He would still carry them, but then he would still throw careless interceptions. But that's just seemingly how left-hand quarterbacks have been, at least in the last few years. Do you guys remember from Wisconsin, Alex Hornibrook?
Yep. I mean, Penix could just, Washington has more resources. They, Indiana's historically a basketball school. They put more money in the basketball program. Washington's got more resources, better coaching. That goes a long way.
Not to mention Seattle's a much richer city than Bloomington.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that NIL money is pretty sweet, I bet. And last up here, we have our CFP picks of the year. And because I just had Washington getting upset this week, I think I'm going to have to change this. So let's hear from Russ first instead.
All right. So, I'm going Georgia. I'm going Clemson. I'm just going teams. Going Georgia, Clemson, Michigan. I'm taking USC out until they prove me wrong. I don't think the defense is going to get them there. The defense is they're going to win or lose with defense. So if they want to make college football playoffs, it's going to be on their defense, not the offense. The offense can score with anybody. So I'm going Georgia, Clemson, Michigan, Washington. That was my original pick. I didn't really want a copycat because Justin had the same as me. But I got to go with Washington. USC's got to prove me right. Prove it to me that they deserve to be in there.
Agreed. That's a good pick there. Joe, can you top that?
Yeah, so the only one that I'm changing is SC. I have Ohio State, I have Alabama, I have ND, and again, that defense from SC. Until I can see that defense can stop a decent offense or just a decent team, I don't think they're going to make it there. I think they're going to slip up Utah or, they may upset UCLA in that rivalry. Who knows? I can see it. It's happened so many times. Look at Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. He would basically have a stacked team. It was his to win. And then what happened? Oh, he would lose to Iowa State, in the middle of October. So instead of USC, I hate putting in two SEC teams. I really do. So, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do Texas. Go. Little Sark. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em, baby. Hook 'em.
Even though I don't think Texas is back, I'm just going to go. Let's just roll with it.
At the USC game this weekend, I happened to run into Fox Sports personality and Texas Longhorn legend Emmanuel Acho.
Okay.
And I told them, look, I'm undercover.
I feel like they every year it's Texas is back, Texas is back. I'm going to give them. Let's see how they look this week. I think they have Quentin Ewers, but then right behind him they have Manning. So with Sark's offense, you never know.
And what I hope they don't do, and like the media does every year with teams like the Dallas Cowboys, is say, oh, there's controversy in the room. There's arguing going back and forth in the QB room, in the locker room, and it's causing a division. Just let them play football. We're sick of the tabloids. I just want to see some good old-fashioned, great Texas football that I grew up with.
We're overdue. I mean, I think the last time Texas, in my opinion, has been relevant was Colt McCoy when they made it to the national championship in 2009.
2009.
Yeah, so I mean, they're overdue. Just like as a lot of people would probably say, so is Notre Dame. So it'll be good to see.
Yes, I hope Texas is actually back. They've got the means to do it, but can they put it all together? We will see. And next week, they're at Alabama. I can't wait for that game too. We'll talk more about that next week. But before we go here, I have a little change now that I have Washington getting upset, but we'll see what happens. Georgia, Michigan, Clemson, and there's something about Dan Lanning's Oregon Ducks. Just keep an eye on them. Bo Nix proved to us, okay, he can actually ball. And fun fact, when Oregon made the national title against Auburn in 2010 with Cam Newton, winning the national championship, Bo Nix was sitting front row with his father, who was the former quarterback at Auburn, just like Bo Nix was the former quarterback at Auburn, who's now at Oregon, who they beat in that title game. Could he seal his legacy by bringing Oregon to their first title? That'd be quite a story, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, it would. It would.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of pundits are big on Oregon and Bo Nix. They say Bo Nix Heisman. So, I mean, if he's going to do it, this is his year. He has to do it.
And remember, Dan Lanning, too, was the defensive coordinator at Georgia when they won their first national title in 2021 in this modern-day dynasty that they're building. Now, they lose him, but they don't lose a game. Georgia does. So was it Kirby or was it Dan? Give him a few years and we'll find out the answer. And our last piece of business for the day, just a random game of the week that I thought,
Are we going upsets, Justin, too? Remember?
No. This is an upset, but this is who's the real Miami? Yes, this week we have Miami versus Miami. The only difference is one of those guys had Ken Dorsey. The other one of those guys had Ben Roethlisberger. Miami of Ohio at Miami, Florida happening. Joe, what are your thoughts on that game?
Oh, I mean, that's not even a question. The U is the real Miami. Early 2000s, 2001, 2002, that team could be argued as the best team in college football. You throw in 2019 LSU, maybe one of the many Alabama teams, but that Miami team in 2001 or 2000, they were all loaded. They were stacked. And then you had the 80s Miami where they were the bad guys, and you had Catholics versus convicts. I mean, I know that 30 for 30, did not appreciate that quote or that slogan, but it's they're the real Miami. It's not even a question. Ben Roethlisberger is a great quarterback, but tell me someone else that's been to Miami of Ohio.
That's true. Russ, do you feel that the winner of this should hold the title as the real Miami until they meet again?
Sure, but it's the U. I can't remember the player, but all I remember in the 80s.
You're both throwing up the Utah U. This is the University of Miami.
The U, whatever.
Utah, Miami.
I can't remember the player's name, but they're playing in the Cotton Bowl, and all I remember is the receiver catches the ball, runs into the tunnel, and comes out guns blazing. That's all you need to know. Those great teams in the 80s were the villains. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Willis McGahee, Ken Dorsey, Michael Irvin, Andre Johnson. It's the U. It's the U. We also, Justin, we got to get to our upset picks of the week. Remember, we got yours.
And we got Joe's too. Russ, who do you have?
What'd you get, Joe? Who was your upset?
Upset of the pick, or upset for the week for me, will be I had South Carolina.
All right. Well, like I said, I was thinking the same thing, but I don't think that's going to be an upset. So I'm going to come in hot right now. All right. I'm going money line, new coach coming in, first year. I'm going Nebraska over Minnesota, traveling to the Twin Cities. Matt Rule getting the W on Thursday night. That's tomorrow.
You know, Husker Nation would love that.
Hey, proud Husker Nation.
Talk about a team that is due for just good football. The Huskers have been through a lot.
They have. And speaking of which, obviously Pete is not here. He's out at Disney celebrating his girlfriend Gabby's birthday. Gabby attended Nebraska for 2 years. Happy birthday, Gabby, from all of us here at Touchdown in Paradise. Petey, we'll see you next week, Petey. And one last note before we go. Miami of Ohio, founded February 2nd, 1809. University of Miami, April 8th, 1925. So one of them was Miami first.
That's true. But still, regarding football, as you corrected us, Justin, it's the U.
The U, baby. I don't know if they're back, but I'd love to see them back. Well, thank you all for tuning in this week for Touchdown in Paradise. Thank you to Alex and Bobby for running the back end here. I'm Justin.
I'm Joe.
I'm Russ.
And tune in to all the great shows here on the Fins Talk Sports Network. We'll see you next week.